Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 52 of the World of Sports podcast. I am your host, Diego Sandoval, and joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Logan Ring. Logan, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody?
We've got a good little episode for you here on Friday, September 17th, episode 52. It is week 2 of the NFL season. Thursday Night Football happened last night. The Washington football team took down the Giants in another really good Thursday Night Football game. But we're going to give our week 2 picks as we are going to do for the rest of this season. And then we're going to give our week 2 bold predictions. We each have 2 loaded up to go. And then we're going to switch the script over to MLB. And we've kind of been talking about the same things in terms of MLB for the past couple of weeks, but I feel like it changes every week. So there's always something new to talk about. But we're going to be talking about the National League and kind of that playoff outlook as of right now. Each team has about 15 games left. I think that's like where every team is, give or take 1 or 2 or 3 games, depending on how many they've already played. But bottom line, we're in the home stretch, and there's a lot of things that still have to be decided in the National League. In terms of NBA, again, it's still the NBA dead period. But that should pick up pretty soon as we get closer and closer to preseason and then the regular season. So, before we get into it, follow us on all of our social media accounts. They will be linked down below. And if not, just look up the World of Sports podcast. You'll be able to find us there. Logan is a bit under the weather right now, so he may not talk as much as you may like or enjoy, but
still grinding the podcast. I got to do it.
Got to do what you got to do. All right, let's jump right into NFL Week 2 picks. Last night was a divisional matchup between NFC East teams. The Washington football team took on the New York Giants. Very good game. It came down to a game-winning field goal, which was missed, but the Giants jumped off sides, and then they got an extra shot. They made the most of it, and the football team won. We both had the football team winning, so we were both 1-0 on the week. In terms of last week's games, I went 9-7, and I believe, Logan, you went. Did you remember what it was?
12-4.
12-4. Really, I mean, just we're not going to spend much time on it, but it was a pretty crazy week in the NFL last week. Lots of upsets, lots of surprising performances.
The Raiders win.
Yeah, and hey, the Raiders look good. I think the Raiders look good against the really good Ravens team. And we're going to start off this week with my prediction of being another upset, and I'm sticking with it until they prove me wrong. I'm going with the Raiders beating the Steelers. I like what I saw from the defensive side, and I really like what I saw from the offense, especially late in the game from the Raiders. The Steelers, it's going to be tough. They have one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the league, but I wasn't really impressed by their offense. And so I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be better than what people maybe are giving the Raiders credit for. So I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Yeah, I would love that outcome. I got the Steelers over the Raiders, though. I would love the Raiders to win. I just don't know if it's going to happen again. I feel like they did get a couple breaks, or at least like some of the stuff that went wrong for them just didn't really end up panning out for the Ravens. But they played really well, so I think it'll be a close matchup. But yeah, I got the Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers won, but I'm rolling with the Raiders. Moving on to 2 teams that are 1-0, so one of them is going to lose unless they tie, but ties suck. It's the Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the 49ers. 2 interesting weeks from them last week. The Eagles played really well against a bad Falcons team. And the Niners played well, and then they almost blew the lead to a really bad Lions team. Or did I say Falcons? The Eagles lost to the Falcons. I don't know if did I say that or say Lions?
I think you said Lions.
Okay. Eagles lost to a bad Falcons, beat a bad Falcons team, and the 49ers beat a bad Lions team. But I like what I saw from the Eagles. And I'm going to go with Philly over the Niners in this one. The Niners didn't look good on defense, which was their kind of strong suit heading into this season. So I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, same. I think this is technically an upset, but it's supposed to be really close anyways. So yeah, I think there were 9 upsets last week, which is ridiculous. So I don't just want to go with the favorite. So yeah, let's go Eagles.
Here, I think everybody and their mother should go with the favorite. I have the Cleveland Browns beating the Houston Texans. The Texans had a blowout win last week, and they still looked bad. Like the team didn't look very good. It's just the Jaguars were that much worse. But I expect the Browns to just pummel the Texans, if we're being honest.
Yeah, the Browns were one bad play away from beating the Chiefs, who a lot of people think are the best team in the league. They lost by 4 to them, so I don't think this will be a real challenge. But yeah, we lost to an insane team last week, so please be 1-1, because if we lose to the Texans, I don't know what I'm going to do.
And if the Texans go 2-0, I think the NFL world will explode. I could see the Texans being the Jaguars of last year. If you aren't familiar, the Jaguars won in week 1, and they didn't win a game for the rest of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened with the Texans. Speaking of the Jaguars, they are taking on the Denver Broncos. Jaguars just didn't look good last week. I mean, they went in against the pretty much consensus worst team in the league, and Trevor Lawrence didn't really impress, although I'm going to talk, I guess I'll talk about it now. He got me my bold prediction. He had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, also 3 interceptions, but that wasn't part of the prediction. All that being said, the Broncos have a much better defense than the Texans do. And so I expect the Broncos to handle the Jaguars.
Yeah, the Broncos didn't get my bold prediction of not allowing a touchdown last week, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it could happen this week too. I have no idea. But yeah, I got the Broncos too. I just think they're a way better team.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to some NFC South opponents, the New Orleans Saints are taking on the Carolina Panthers, and the Saints showed that I don't know if it's, their defense is legit. We can say that. The Saints had a very good defense last year. Coming to this year, the main question marks were around the offense, and people just like forgot about their defense. But they showed last week that, like the Packers just looked bad, but the Saints defense needs to get some credit for that game. And I think I don't see that stopping at all. I like what the Panthers are doing. I think they looked okay. They looked pretty good last week. But I've got the Saints in this one. I think the Saints start off 2-0.
Yeah, same. I didn't pick them last week, and that was a mistake. I don't know if I was like 38-3 or something was the score. They just dominated in everything. So yeah, I gotta pick them.
Yeah, it could be a good game. The Panthers have weapons, but the Saints defense just looked dominating. Like you said, against last year, one of the best offenses in the league, and they're not missing anything except for maybe. Have you heard all the theories that Aaron Rodgers is like tanking the season on purpose?
No, but I saw a stat where his passer rating would have been higher in week 1 if he just straight up spiked the ball every play. So it did not go well.
I mean, I highly doubt he's like throwing games, but if he comes out against the Lions this week and looks as bad as he did last week, it's a conversation, especially considering he doesn't like it in Green Bay. So I don't know, but yeah, Saints beat the Panthers. Then next matchup, the Los Angeles Rams are taking on the Indianapolis Colts. There could be an upset brewing, but I don't think so. I've got the Rams. They just dominated the Bears last week. A Bears team who, had solid expectations going into the season. But the Rams came in and basically showed like, hey, we're legit. And the Colts kind of got torched by Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So I've got the Rams in this one.
Yeah, me too. It's your pick for the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think they're gonna beat a way worse team than they did last week, I guess.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Two AFC East teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins looked good last week. That defense did well against the revamped Patriots offense. And the Bills didn't look very good. They did play the Steelers defense. So, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt when you look at like Josh Allen's stats and stuff like that. That being said, I think the Bills bounce back. And although the Dolphins are a tough defense and I expect this to be a hard fought game, I've got the Bills winning this one.
Yeah, I do like the Dolphins, but I just feel like the Bills aren't going to let themselves go down 0-2. So I got the Bills in this too. I'm surprised they lost in week 1, but yeah, I think they got this one.
And the second AFC East matchup of the week, the New England Patriots are taking on the New York Jets. Nothing really impressed me about the Jets last week. They had Corey Davis looked really good for them, but I really liked what I saw out of the Patriots rookie quarterback than the Jets rookie quarterback last week. So I've got the Patriots beating the Jets.
Yeah, basically same exact reason for me.
Yeah. Moving on, we have the battle of, I don't know, just have a fun name. Animals, Bears versus the Bengals. It's the Bengals are an interesting team because they're they have plenty of weapons, but just for some reason they're not that exciting to me. Like Joe Burrow, sure, but just the way that team is built, they're not helping him out on the defensive side of the ball. They're definitely not helping him out with the offensive line. They were able to squeak one out against the Vikings in overtime last week. That was a great win. And the Bears pretty much got dominated by the Rams. But I have the Bears winning this one. I don't know. The Bengals just don't really do it for me yet. I think Burrow is going to have to prove that he can, fully, come back after injury. Even though they won last week, Burrow didn't really impress me. But I've got the Bears beating the Bengals.
Yeah, I got the Bears in this one too. It just kind of disgusts me that the Bengals are above the Browns in the standings right now. And I know that's not what's going to happen, but yeah, I like Joe Burrow, just like you said, but that's kind of it for this team, to be honest.
And if you were going to have a lock of the week, I guess the Browns and Texans could be one, but if you're going to have a lock of the week, it's going to be Buccaneers beating the Falcons. I mean, it's the Buccaneers are going to be the most talented team in the NFL, and the Falcons just got blown out by the Eagles last week. I mean, if you get blown out by the Eagles, you don't want to face Tom Brady the next week because he'll do the exact same thing. It's a pretty easy pick for me.
Yeah, same.
A game that could be interesting. Cardinals are taking on the Vikings. Both relatively high-powered offenses, but I think the Cardinals just showed, like, I don't know if necessarily they're gonna, be Super Bowl contenders this year, but they definitely played like it in week 1 against a good Titans team. They kind of came out and were like, hey, we're for real this year. We're going for it. So I got the Cardinals in this one, just based off the fact that they probably had the best performance of week 1 out of all the teams.
Yeah, Sam. And I think Kyler Murray probably had the best quarterback performance too. And the Titans are not a bad team at all, and they absolutely destroyed them. So yeah, I got Cardinals beating Vikings too.
Yeah. Speaking of the Titans, they are traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. This is going to be an interesting game because it could go one of two ways. I think it could be a really close game that sees a lot of offense, or the Seahawks could run away with it. Being in Seattle, it's going to be tough, but I do have the Titans coming in, and I think it might be an upset, but I don't know. Even after week 1, I believe in the Titans. I believe in what they have going. I think that they can do well against the Seahawks defense. So I've got the Titans in this one.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks in this one. We'll see if Russell Wilson can do the same thing Kyler Murray did. I think the Titans are definitely not going to show like the same thing that they did in week 1 because I just don't feel like that's the team that they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still got the Seahawks. I think that they are the favorite in this one, but it was really close. So yeah, I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, definitely don't expect the Titans to come out and do what they did last week. So expecting more, hoping for more. But anyways, another interesting game this week. The Dallas Cowboys are taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. I think this could be a very high scoring game. You know, the Cowboys were able to put a decent amount of points on the Buccaneers last week. The Chargers didn't put up a lot of points, but they were facing, you know, a decent defense in the Washington football team. They didn't really perform to the offensive expectations, but they were able to get the win. I think it's an upset, but I have the Cowboys going into Los Angeles and taking down the Chargers. I don't know. I just think this offense has something to prove after their performance against the Buccaneers, kind of prove that they're sustainable. So I've got the Cowboys.
Yeah, I got the Cowboys too. I really like what I saw from Dak. I have a bold prediction that I'll talk about later about him in this week. But yeah, they put up like 29 points against the Bucs, who have one of, if not the best defense in the league. So I think that they can do the same thing with the Chargers. Chargers are not a bad team at all. I mean, it'll be really close, but I got the Cowboys.
And the Sunday night football game is between two very good teams. One team coming off of a big win and one team they were both played emotional games last week. The Chiefs had the comeback against the Browns, and the Ravens lost in overtime to the Raiders. I expect it to be a shootout. Neither defense really impressed me last week, but both offenses were pretty good. I think, you know, the Ravens offense was really good without Lamar Jackson fumbling the ball. And we don't know, you know, it's too early to say like that's going to be a problem the whole season, but it hurts you when you fumble twice in a close game like that. So I've got the Chiefs. I just think if you're getting in the shootout with the Chiefs are going to win 9 times out of 10. So I've got the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are still a little bit injured. And I mean, last week, the Browns played a pretty much perfect game until a couple of mistakes, and then the Chiefs still won. They're just such a talented team. I don't see the Ravens beating them in this one. Patrick Mahomes is just a beast. They have so many weapons. I just don't see the Chiefs losing this.
Yeah. And then the Monday night game, based on just looking at it, it's Packers versus Lions. It should be a pretty one-sided game. I don't expect the Packers to come out and do what they did last week. The Lions defense is nowhere close to the Saints defense. I think that this offseason with the Packers was so weird that it kind of leaked into week 1 almost. Like nobody was really fully, you know, bought into the team. But I think they get back on track this week. They're playing the Lions. I've got the Packers in this one.
Yeah, same. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a good week against the Lions, maybe your idea is correct, or I guess that theory that people have that he's throwing. But yeah, I definitely expect them to come out and do a lot better.
Yeah. We'll talk about bold predictions, but one of my bold predictions is part of this game. Those are our week 2 picks. A post will be going up on our Instagram at TWOS podcast if you want to check it out before the games begin. Again, we are already 1-0 on the week, so we're bound to go
barely
16. Barely. All right, moving on to our bold predictions. Last week, my bold predictions were Titans score 40 points against the Cardinals. Holy, that didn't happen. And then I had Trevor Lawrence throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in his NFL debut. That did. So, I mean, 1 for 2. I think yours were no touchdowns for the Giants, which they did. I
think they got one in like 6 minutes. So
yeah,
that one didn't work out.
And then you had Mahomes and Mayfield both rushing for a touchdown.
Yeah,
Mahomes did. Baker did not.
That was the close.
Tough one. But our bold predictions for this week, I'll go first. I think the Sunday night football game, both the Chiefs and the Ravens score more than 30 points in that game. That's a lot of points. It only happened once last week. I believe it was the Niners-Lions game, and the Lions had like 3 garbage time touchdowns, I feel like. So it was like, I don't want to say it's a fluke because the Lions scored 33 points, but I got the Chiefs and the Ravens both scoring 30 on Sunday night.
All right. Yeah, I have one for that game too. And this one's a little bit weird because it's just a quarterback having an interception, and that's Patrick Mahomes having his first career September interception, which
Wow.
sounds crazy, but in September, he has never had one in his entire career. He has 35 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. The man is like ridiculous in September. The Ravens defense did not do very well last week, but I mean, maybe you just have to get lucky against that man. I don't even know. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that's interesting because September is usually, depending on when the season lines up, it's weeks 1 through 3, and to never have an interception the first 3 games of the season in your career,
It's crazy.
That's insane. All right, interesting. Patrick Mahomes will throw an interception. Moving to another quarterback in the Monday night game, I have Aaron Rodgers fully bouncing back. I think he throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
That's a big game. I felt like giving him 303 touchdowns was not bold enough, because that's what I predicted for Trevor Lawrence in his debut as a bold prediction. And I feel like we all can agree Aaron Rodgers is many steps ahead of Trevor Lawrence. So 404 touchdowns, I realize it's a lot, but I feel like he comes into this game pissed off almost and is ready to prove people wrong. And that's in the cards, I think.
Yeah, I have a similar one. Mine was going to be that Dak throws 4 touchdowns against the Chargers, but I'm going to throw in 400 yards in that too, just to make it fun. Yeah, I really like what I saw last week from him. He threw 400 yards last week and 3 touchdowns against the Bucks. So I was really impressed. I mean, he throws the ball a ton. That's just kind of what he does. So
Yeah,
we'll see what he can do. The Bucks defense is a lot better than the Chargers, but I mean, it's not like it's going to be easy either way. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I think Chargers Cowboys is going to be a good one. But those are our bold predictions. Again, I'm 1-1 on the year. Logan is 0-2. We don't expect us to have good records in terms of these bold predictions. They're bold for a reason. So yeah, that's all we got for NFL. Should be a good week 2. It's already off to a great start with the Thursday night game. Should be some more good games later on in the week. Let's flip the script over to the MLB. We've kind of flip-flopped between talking about the American League and National League these past couple episodes. This week, we are going to be talking about the National League because there has been more changes, namely in the wild card race. But we're going to save that for later. We're going to talk about the divisions right now. Division we don't really need to talk about is the NL Central. The Brewers are at 89-57. They're 12.5 games up of the next closest team. Nobody else is winning that division.
Yeah, they got it.
The Brewers have the 2 seed locked for the playoffs. Meanwhile,
and I feel like they need to get talked about more too, because they're just kind of there and nobody cares.
They've
been really good.
They've got 3 top 7 Cy Young candidates probably in their starting rotation, which newsflash is very good come playoff time. I think the Brewers and the Dodgers are the 2 teams set up perfectly, I think, for playoff series. So I would like to see them face off against each other. But that's the NL Central. Again, we don't really need to talk about that because that's kind of a lock. The NL East has gotten closer. The Braves at 76-68 are currently in first. The Phillies are 3 games back at 74-72. The Phillies, 74-72 shouldn't be close to a division leader. So it's tough to say that like they're having a great season, because they're really not. Like, they're having a mediocre season, like it's just look at their record. They're 2 games above 500. Like, this division isn't good. I know the Braves have been pretty injury plagued throughout the season. So part of that is the reason why, but the bottom line is this isn't a very good division. And then Bryce Harper, I think, is very close to taking that MVP spot right now. Right now, I think it's still Tatis for me, but by a little bit. But if Bryce Harper can, pull ahead or has a bet, I think if Bryce Harper has a better last 2.5 weeks of the season than Tatis, I think he is the MVP. Yeah,
and he's had a way better second half. His advanced numbers are ridiculous. You look at like the RBIs and stuff, and you're like, that's kind of low, but if you look at the situation, like, guys are not getting on base for him. He's hit like 20 solo home runs. Like, it's ridiculous. The man is like carrying this team, and his teammates are just not doing much. The bullpen sucks too. I don't know what's happening in Philly. I think they have they're on track to have the most blown saves ever or something. It's really bad, and the team is still over 500, so that's pretty impressive. But I do like Atlanta keeping the spot here. I just think they're better. They're still missing their best player too, which is I mean, Ronald Acuna was he's MVP at the start.
Yeah, he's a perennial MVP candidate.
Yeah.
And to still be at the top of your division.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I mean, dude, their infield is probably the best offensive infield in baseball right now. Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman. They all have been raking this year. And, back to Bryce Harper. I mean, the argument is always there that if your team doesn't make the playoffs, it's tough to vote you as MVP. But
Mike Trout exists.
And also the Padres might not make the playoffs. So we might find ourselves in a situation where we're deciding between two guys on teams that both miss the playoffs. So
yeah,
that argument can really get thrown out of the window. I think it's thrown
and
out of the
window.
window
too.
Right. And I think it's thrown out of the window. See, now that's becoming more of a conversation, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
Which is something we'll talk about awards once, the regular season comes to an end, obviously. But I think it's thrown out of the window, even if the Phillies are, say, 2 games out of the wild card and the Padres end up getting it. There were 2 games better. That's not much of a difference to me.
It's the MVP for other leagues, you can kind of say differently, oh, Steph Curry can't win MVP last season because his team didn't make the playoffs. And in the NBA, you're a fifth of the team, and you're really more if you're the MVP. You can carry a team. In the MLB, you can only do so much on your own. It's a very team sport. You got to rely on other people. You only play if you're not Shohei, you only play half of the time anyway. So it's I don't know. You can't really say a record to decide who an MVP is. You just look at their numbers, and it's not like you put up empty stats in baseball. So
yeah,
I really like this race though.
Yeah, it's going to come down to the wire for sure. Speaking of coming down to the wire, the National League West is going to be decided. I think I said this at the All-Star break that I see this race coming down to the last series of the year, and that definitely is in the cards. Right now, the Giants are at 95-52, first place in the NL West. Dodgers have gotten into 1 game back at 94-53. I mean, the 2 best teams in baseball are in the same division. And it kind of sucks. I mean, even if I'm the Giants, as a Dodger fan, obviously I'm going to say it sucks if we're a wild card team, but also I feel for the Giants if they're a wild card team. I'm not saying, oh, the Giants, right? If you win 100+ games and are a wild card team, you got screwed. It's just how it is. That being said, I don't know if there's homerism or what it is, but I still think the Dodgers are winning this division. The Padres play the Giants. I think half of the rest of the Giants games are against the Padres. And as up and down that they've been this year, they're still a team that can legitimately beat a team like the Giants or the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, meanwhile, play, I think, they play against the Rockies and the D-backs still. So I think those are games the Dodgers win.
Hey, is the series against the Rockies an away series for the Dodgers?
Oh, no, it is. Damn. All right. But anyways, Dodgers play Reds, Rockies, D-backs, Padres, Brewers. That Brewers series is the last series of the year. I think that's going to have a big say in it. Meanwhile, the Giants play the Braves, Padres, Rockies, D-backs, Padres. So they both are playing against, they have 2 series. They each have 2 series against playoff teams whatever it is. I think it's going to come down to the last series of the year. And I wanted to talk to you about this because it came up on MLB Network the other day. Right now, in terms of the wild card, the Dodgers are 17 games ahead of the next wild card team. Do you see? I feel like if I make my input, it's kind of biased because I'm a fan of that team right now. But I honestly think that if the first wildcard team is, say, 10 games ahead of the second wildcard team, they should get some type of advantage.
Yeah, it would take a whole like restructuring of how the playoffs work, but I like how other leagues do it. Like the NBA, I mean, they have their divisions and whatever, but it's just,
It's the
I mean,
best
even
teams.
that is a little bit different because it's two leagues. But yeah, it's the best teams, and I don't really understand. It would stop some of the rivalries, which I get. Like the Dodgers and the Giants have been having this battle, and they just wouldn't have like it wouldn't have really mattered for the 1 or 2 seed or whatever. So I understand that, but also if the Dodgers have a chance of losing one game and then getting out of the playoffs after going like 105 wins in the season or something ridiculous, like that doesn't really seem fair. So I totally understand why people like Dodgers fans would be angry. I don't know what advantage you would give if you don't just completely like restructure the thing and it's just the best teams. But yeah, I don't know. It's how baseball works, and I feel like a lot of this is about like tradition and everything. So I don't know how it would get changed, but I feel like it should be.
I think the easiest way to change it would be if a team, they can set the game at whatever really they want, but I think 10 is probably fair enough to have that big of a gap. 5 might be too close in my opinion, but if there's a team that's 10 games better than the other wildcard team in the standing, I think you have a situation where the team that's ahead that's, has a better record, it's a 3-game series, or it's 3 games possible. The team that's ahead only has to beat them once.
It's like the play-in tournament sort of.
That's exactly the NBA play-in tournament style, basically. So right now it's Dodgers Cardinals, which by the way, we're going to talk about the Cardinals. But if they were the wild card teams, the Cardinals would have to beat the Dodgers twice before the Dodgers won just one game. And I feel like that's fair enough when the Dodgers have, they're going to end up with say 105 wins and the Cardinals are going to end up with 82, 83.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty, like you can't leave it up to one game of baseball to show that one team is better than the, like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's some, especially, I mean, it wouldn't go into effect obviously if the teams are both close enough, which it's been in the past. We've never really seen a wild card team be this much better than the second wild card team. It's just this weird happening where the 2 best teams in the league are in the same division. But yeah, that being said, if the Dodgers are a wild card team, I'm not worried because Max Scherzer has given up 1 run as a Dodger or whatever it is. If I'm Dave Roberts, he's my wild card game starter. But then again, the Dodgers don't lose when Julio Urias pitches. So, and then Walker Buehler's one of the best, if not the best big game pitchers in the MLB. And then, Clayton Kershaw.
Crazy.
Okay, enough talk about the Dodgers Giants. They're both the 2 best teams in the league. They're both going to make the playoffs. It's just going to be whether or not, one of them is a wild card and one of them wins the division. Now, the second wild card spot is really the talking point right now. As of right now, the Cardinals have that spot. They rose out of the ashes and jumped into the spot. Padres are currently a half game back after winning 2 straight against the Giants. The Reds are 1 game back and the Phillies are 2.5 back. The Cardinals, I mean, at the beginning of the season, we both had them winning this division. Obviously that's not going to happen, but I feel like they've had the talent the entire year. It's now finally starting to show.
Yeah. And like Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado were like 2 additions who, I mean, everybody thought they were going to be a lot better than they were to start the season. And then now they're kind of really showing like who they actually are. I think Nolan Arenado's hit like 5 home runs. Like he's hitting one like every other game. Paul Goldschmidt's getting on base. I mean, the whole team is pretty good. They're very solid. They are, if you look at the run differential, they're like -5 and all the other teams in the hunt are positive. You can kind of, you can just say that they had like a bad start and bad stretches, which kind of like show that they've been blown out a couple times. But that could be an argument to say why they're not like gonna take that spot, but they've been really good recently. So, I mean, I give them all the props. And teams like the Padres, yeah, they've won 2 in a row, but they're still 4-6 in their last 10. Like they have not been good overall. So yeah, I mean, it's their spot to lose at this point. They've made it there. So, I mean, keep winning. I mean, you're going to be there. It's all about the losses in my opinion. Cause like then you just depend on other teams losing. But yeah, I like what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and it's always tough to talk about wildcard teams. Obviously, besides whoever gets the top spot in the National League, because these aren't great teams. Like, they're wild cards. We've talked about this in podcasts before. Like, they're not supposed to be really good teams. They're supposed to be teams that have pieces here and there. They just weren't able to have the best regular season. And I think the Cardinals kind of fully kind of identify with that role because, like you said, Arenado, Goldschmidt, those are two superstars. Yadi Molina is solid behind the plate. I mean, Harrison Bader is arguably the best defensive outfielder in baseball, and he's also been raking. That they've got a lot of pieces. It just hasn't fully gelled. But they're still, a half game up of the Padres. Who, moving on to the Padres, we've talked about them enough. Kind of just the fall from being that they were the second or third. They had the second or third best World Series odds to at the beginning of this season, and it just hasn't panned out. Yu Darvish has been one of the worst pitchers in baseball since the ban on sticky stuff. So, you know what he was doing all those years. Blake Snell just got put on the IL, who's been their best pitcher of late.
Yeah.
So they're not looking very good. But then you look at them and they split a series against the Giants, the best team in the league. So there's talent there. It's the same as really any wild card team you can think of. There's talent there, but it's just not enough talent, I think, I don't think any of these teams have enough talent to beat the Dodgers or even the Giants in the wild card game.
Yeah, I mean, all these teams are fighting to most likely lose to the Dodgers, which is not fun for them. But yeah, I don't know. It's the Padres were just such a fun team, and they went through stretches where they just lost to teams that they really should have beat. And like they just split the series with the Giants, who's got the best record in the league. So they have the talent, they have the capability of doing it. They just haven't done it, and that's just the truth. I mean, there's not really much more to say about them. Tatis has not really been an MVP over the last few months. He's been solid, but not an MVP at all. And yeah, it's just the whole team seems like they're just not having fun and not being the Padres that we know. I mean, they're supposed to be bat flipping and hitting grand slams and things, and they've just been honestly bad. They haven't had a winning record for months. It's not good. So yeah, I honestly don't see the Padres getting back up into a wild card spot. They just have such a difficult schedule. And yeah, it doesn't see, it seems like next year they'll be back again, but just right now, the whole clubhouse just does not seem like they're having fun. And that's not really going to lead to wins, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Padres schedule. This weekend, 3-game series against the Cardinals, which is going to be massive for this race, obviously. I mean, but then you go 3 against the Giants, 4 against the Braves, 3 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Giants. That's if you're
tough.
That's not a very good outlook. If you're a Padres fan, the next team in that race is the Reds, who are 1 game back, and my boy, have they blown it.
They did.
I mean, this in September, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Tigers. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals. They're up there, so that's not as bad. And they lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates, and now they're going to face the Dodgers for 3 this weekend. They were in that number 2 wild card spot. They were like a game and a half to 2 games up on the Padres, and everyone.
It's a good schedule.
It's a phenomenal September schedule.
They blew it.
And that's pretty much all you can say. They've blown it. I mean, there's like 3, Nick Castellanos, Jesse Winker, Joey Votto. They've got solid hitters, but it's just there's nothing much outside of that. And that's kind of, I think, why they haven't been able to sustain a run, really. They've just kind of been a streaky team all year. So I also don't expect the Reds to do it. I think it's the Cardinals and the Phillies, if we're being honest. The Phillies are 2.5 back, yes. But, I mean, I don't know. The Phillies have this just momentum about them. They're facing the Mets, the Orioles, the Pirates, the Braves, and the Marlins. That's a very favorable schedule if you're a Phillies fan.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough when you depend on other teams losing, like I just
Right.
said, but they just seem like they want it more than other teams. And I mean, that's definitely not true, but like you can tell that all of them are like happier to be there and they like are banding together and actually having fun. And like Bryce Harper is, my opinion, he probably will win MVP just because of the momentum he has. He is become so underrated for no reason. It's ridiculous. He's hitting a home run every other game. Like he's so exciting. He gets on base like 3 out of 5 times over the last like half of the season. I think he's got like a 500 on base percentage. He leads the league in OPS. He's ridiculous. And the whole team is just fun. Like I just love watching their games. And that schedule that they have, that's huge. I mean, they're definitely going to pass a team like the Padres if they just do their job and win against these teams. And yeah, it's tough when you have more losses than other teams. They have 3 more losses than the Cardinals, but I could definitely see it happening.
Yeah. And like you said, it's going to be a good race, but then we're kind of looking at a situation where you're going to have to face Max Scherzer and the Dodgers offense. So, but
Yikes.
if I, as a Dodgers fan, and I'm looking at these 4 teams in a 1-game series, I don't want to face Zach Wheeler. Like he's the best pitcher out of all of these teams. And the Phillies, if they make a run, I think they're the team with the best chance strictly on they're going to throw Zach Wheeler and they're going to throw him as many pitches as possible because God knows they don't want to go to that bullpen. So I guess I would say I out of all the teams as a Dodger fan, I wouldn't want the Phillies to be there.
Yeah, and I think that's saying a lot for the team that they are, because as an outside perspective, it's like, oh yeah, this team would be exciting, but like for you, like, yeah, I'd want to face the freaking Padres who are all hurt or whatever.
Give me the Reds, like please.
Yeah. But it's just so exciting that this keeps changing. I mean, like I think like 2 weeks ago we were like, oh yeah, the Reds are gonna have it or whatever. Like there's no way the Reds give this up. And then they did. So next week maybe it'll be different again. It probably will be. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm glad it's so close.
Yeah. That's all we planned for. Let me just check. I mean, the AL wild card is also very close. Right now, the Yankees are out of it, and the Blue Jays have came on, which we can talk about next week. But just as of right now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is, I mean,
insane.
If his team, if he continues to stretch he's on, and they are solidified as that top wild card spot, I don't see a reason why it's not a very close vote with Shohei Ohtani for MVP.
Yeah, and I don't know what the co-MVPs thing is. I think that's happened before. It's just crazy that Shohei, like, what he's doing, he is still not like the clear MVP right now. Like Vlad might have the triple crown. He's so close and everything. I mean, he leads in so much, and he still went through a pretty tough stretch, like just like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But he's picked it up and he's back on that level again. He's so good. I think he's 22 years old. He's on a list with like some of the greatest players of all time to like be able to do what he's doing at this age. It's awesome. And the Blue Jays are just like, in my opinion, they're so much better than some of these teams. Like even the Yankees and Red Sox or whatever, like their record is basically the same, but I just feel like the Blue Jays have just put together a better team, in my opinion. And their games that you can like even watch them, and it's just like, how do they have all these like hitters? Like every single player that comes up, like 1 through 6 or whatever, it's just like, oh, this is like a potential all-star. It's like, it's so exciting.
Shout out Bo Bichette. He's having a very good year. Speaking about that, the Triple Crown, Salvador Perez is like,
yeah, he's ridiculous too.
Saying no. Salvador Perez is an interesting player because he's just like hitting home runs and not doing much else. So it's like,
terrible at defense now.
Yeah, he's just like turned into this weird, like, I don't even know. He's having a very interesting season because a lot of people right now are saying he's overrated. Which I mean you could say, but also he has 45 home runs and 112 RBIs. Like you can't knock that production.
So, I don't know where this came from because like he's never had 100 RBIs in a season. I think he's had like 30 something home runs as like the max.
He's tied just like the record for most home runs by a catcher.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, I don't know where this came from. He was always like a solid hitter, but it's just like he hits so many home runs now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But that should be another thing to watch for, the AL MVP and whether or not Vladimir Guerrero gets Triple Crown. But yeah, that's all we got for today. It was a fun little episode. We gave our week 2 NFL picks and bold predictions, and then talked about the NL wild card and all the shakeups that are going down and what we see happening and transpiring in the coming weeks as the MLB regular season comes to a close and postseason kicks off. Again, follow us on all of our social medias. Thank you so much. If you have been listening this whole time, go ahead and comment. Let's see, what should they comment?
Give your NL picks for the wild card at the end of the season.
One of them is going to be either the Dodgers or Giants, so there's a lock. So pick your second wild card team. And let us know. As always, it's been a pleasure. And for my co-host Logan Ring, my name is Diego Sandoval, signing off.